Let's just do a quick fast forward from that day to the end of the war. There are a million ugly things in between. Let's talk about the end of the war, us and Japan. You know how I warn you a lot on this show about us losing a major war, and you don't understand what that looks like, and I talk to you about our military and our leadership and how dangerous the situation is. I just gave you the American perspective. That's the perspective we all know. From a Japanese perspective, a regular Japanese civilian, remember, not making any decisions, certainly not calling the shots. They didn't decide to bomb Pearl Harbor. A Japanese civilian, well, you know 100,000 people burned to death in Tokyo? Called Operation Meeting House. Most Americans don't even know about it. They're too busy learning about the Native American genocide in school. They don't teach actual history anymore. Go look up Operation Meeting House. We firebombed Tokyo and killed 100,000 people in flames. That's to say nothing of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, wiping out massive cities in a wonderful country with wonderful traditions. And I'm not criticizing those decisions either. I don't do that. I'm not doing that. I'm saying look at the damage done to a nation because of its insane leadership. Because of leadership that got so misguided, so twisted up, they didn't understand fully the stakes of the game they were playing. The leadership of Japan is responsible for wiping out, gosh, how many of their people? How much of their wonderful culture is gone now? And I said all that to you because Vladimir Putin, he met with our current president, Joe Biden, today. And yeah, they were talking about Ukraine. Russia has 175,000 troops on the border. Clearly, Russia has plans. Ukraine's defense chief, he says, get ready for a bloodbath.
I will not believe that Russia will have a victory in Ukraine. It's a different, because it will be a really bloody massacre. And Russian guys also will come back in the coffins, yes.
These are the stakes of the game we play. Why is Russia on the move? Why is China out there spending 50% more than India, Japan, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia combined on their military? You don't think they're spending all that so it can look nice and shiny in the ocean, do you? You don't think they're spending all that military money so they can have fancy parades, do you? They're going to want a ROI, a return on investment. They're going to want something for that. So why? Why is Russia on the move? Why is China on the move? Well, we elected Joe Biden. I'm not trying to just be partisan about this, but I don't know of another way to put it. When you elect a half-functional, ancient human being who frankly doesn't think very much of the country, and he continues to bumble his way through his first year with embarrassment after embarrassment on the world stage, as I've tried to sit here in this chair and warn you 1,000 times, you are playing a very dangerous game, because the world now is the world just as it was back in the 1940s. It is full of evil people and evil leaders who are just seeking any opportunity to gobble up other nations and spread death and misery. And the reason those evil men don't do those things oftentimes is because there is a strong nation out there they know will stand up to them, and that strong nation simply doesn't exist anymore. What's our response to Chinese aggression? What's our response to the Russian aggression? What's our response to Chinese genocide? They're currently doing organ harvesting over there of the Uyghur Muslims. What's the American response? Well, we're not going to send diplomats to the Olympics.
The Biden administration will not send any diplomatic or official representation to the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics and Paralympic Games, given the PRC's ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang and other human rights abuses. The athletes on Team USA have our full support. We will be behind them 100% as we cheer them on from home. We will not be contributing to the fanfare of the Games.
Okay, so we're sending our athletes? What? That's insane. But we're doing it. China just flat out laughed in our faces. Quote, this is Chinese. To be honest, Chinese are relieved to hear the news because the fewer the U.S. officials come, the fewer viruses will be brought in. That, in case you were wondering, is reference to the often repeated saying in China that we are the ones who created coronavirus. That's how little they respect us. That's how little respect we now command on the world stage. And look, why would they respect us? Why would they respect us? Don't you remember? We have a president whose whole family is in bed with this country. Our American media chose to intentionally bury that story, calling it Russian disinformation. To this day, they won't address the fact the Biden family appears financially beholden to our world enemy.
Shortly after President Biden's virtual meeting with the Chinese president, the first son's attorney said that he has finally divested from a Chinese investment fund controlled by state-owned entities. I was hoping you could commit to basic transparency about that transaction, including the name of the buyer, the dollar amount, and the timing. And the second question is, my colleague Miranda Devine has a new book out called The Laptop from Hell, and I was hoping that you could confirm that the laptop is indeed authentic and not Russian disinformation, as you seemed to suggest on Twitter last year.
Well, on the first, the president's son is not an employee of the federal government, so I'd point you to his representatives. And as it relates to the book, I have neither had the time nor interest in exploring or reading the book. Go ahead, Tina.
The first son's attorney
Go ahead,
didn't
Tina.
give any
I think I answered your question.
transaction.
Go ahead. You can go to the representative of the person who's not an employee of the federal government. Go ahead, Tina. I think we have to move on. Go
Is there
ahead.
anything the
Just want to remind you what we just got done talking about again. 100,000 people burning to death in Tokyo. The asphalt in the street melting people into it as they run down the road. When I bring these things up to you, it is not to shock you. It is so you understand the stakes of the game. These are the stakes of the game. Remember that the next time you go to the polls. Hey, thanks so much for watching the first on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.